The thick clouds of a tumultuous sky loomed over the desolate expanse of the Mojave Desert, the twilight sun casting an eerie glow on the jagged rocks and sparse vegetation. On any ordinary day, the desolation would remain undisturbed, save for the occasional hawk circling overhead or a lone coyote slinking through the brush. But today was far from ordinary. At exactly 1903, the silence shattered with the piercing sound of tearing metal and hissing steam. A craft, unlike any known to human engineering, plummeted from the heavens, gouging the earth as it crashed, throwing up clouds of dust and debris. As the echoes of the crash faded, a tense quiet settled over the crash site. Inside the craft, amid the tangled wreckage and flickering console lights, lay a creature. Its body was long and lithe, covered in scales that shimmered with a spectrum of colors, mostly a deep, iridescent blue that seemed to absorb the fading light. 4 slender limbs, ending in delicate clawed hands, splayed awkwardly around its form. Its chest heaved with labored breaths, and its eyes, large and luminescent under the 2 bony ridges of its forehead, flickered open with evident confusion and pain. This creature, known among its kind as Threx, was what the people of Earth would label an alien, though to itself it was merely a traveler who had veered disastrously off course. As Threx gathered its senses, the pain from its injuries mingled with a deeper, more gnawing fear. It was alone, vulnerable, and far from home. Back in the small town of Ridgecrest, a mere 20 miles from the crash site, the event did not go unnoticed. A sudden surge of interference had momentarily knocked out the local television and radio broadcasts, causing mild panic and rampant speculation among the town's residents. Among them was Jessica Torres, a young woman with a keen interest in astrophysics and amateur radio. She had been fiddling with her equipment, attempting to pick up distant signals, when the static burst through her headphones. With an instinct honed by years of curiosity about the universe, she grabbed her binoculars and headed out into the night, driven by a hunch that this was no ordinary interference. As she drove her beat-up old pickup towards the source of the disturbance, her mind raced with possibilities. What if it was a meteor, a secret military aircraft, or, though she barely allowed herself to think it, something extraterrestrial? Arriving at the outskirts of the crash site, Jessica parked her truck behind a cluster of boulders and proceeded on foot. The air smelled of scorched earth and something else, a tangy metallic scent that she couldn't quite place. The ground trembled slightly under her feet, a testament to the impact of whatever had fallen from the sky. She climbed a small rise, and there it was. The wreckage of a craft so bizarre it defied description. Its design was sleek yet organic, with no obvious seams or rivets. It seemed to have been grown rather than built, pulsating faintly with a light of its own. Jessica's heart skipped a beat. This was no human technology. It had to be alien. Her excitement, however, quickly turned to concern as she spotted the injured creature near the craft. It looked fragile and terrified, its vivid eyes scanning the darkness frantically. Jessica knew she should be frightened, should turn around and call for help, but something in those eyes, so full of fear and confusion, tugged at her conscience. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, her voice soft and trembling as she spoke. "Hello. Can you understand me? I'm here to help." The creature stiffened, its gaze fixing on her. For a moment, neither moved. Then slowly it made a soft, keening sound, a noise that was unmistakably a plea for help. Jessica approached cautiously, aware of the enormity of this encounter. She was no diplomat, no representative of Earth in any official capacity. She was simply a human, standing before a being from the stars, offering help where no one else dared to. Jessica's heart pounded in her chest as she knelt beside the alien, her mind racing with every sci-fi scenario she'd ever imagined. Threx watched her warily, its bright eyes dimming with pain. She reached out slowly, stopping just short of touching it, her hand hovering in the air. "It's okay. I won't hurt you," she whispered, more to reassure herself than the alien. The creature's eyes followed her every move, a low hum emanating from its throat, a sound that seemed to convey a cautious curiosity. She pulled off her jacket and gently draped it over the alien's shivering form. The creature flinched initially, but then relaxed slightly as the warmth enveloped it. Jessica smiled softly, hoping to convey her friendly intentions. The task of communication loomed large. Threx's vocalizations were unlike any human language, composed of harmonics and frequencies that Jessica's ears struggled to differentiate. She rummaged through her backpack and pulled out her tablet, booting up a sound analysis app she used for her amateur radio hobbies. Perhaps she could capture some of its sounds and play them back, see if any patterns emerged that might hint at a language. As she recorded the alien's hums and clicks, Threx seemed to become more interested, its eyes focusing on the tablet. Sensing a potential breakthrough, Jessica played back the sounds. To her amazement, Threx's eyes widened, and it attempted to mimic the sounds coming from the device. This mimicry opened the first fragile bridge of understanding between them. Jessica spent the next few hours experimenting with sounds and simple symbols on her tablet. She tried drawing basic shapes and associating them with words: a circle for moon, a jagged line for mountain. Threx watched and occasionally attempted to replicate the shapes with a shaky finger. As the night deepened, Jessica realized that she needed help. She couldn't just keep this creature hidden. It required medical attention, and she was unequipped to provide the care it needed. With a heavy heart, she decided to contact her friend Dr. Elise Hammond, a veterinarian with a penchant for the unconventional. She sent a text message, her fingers hesitating above the send button before finally pressing down. It read, "Elise, I need your help. It's urgent and strange. Can you come to the old Henderson field and bring your medical kit?" Within minutes, Elise responded with a simple, "On my way." While waiting for Elise, Jessica continued her attempts at communication, each interaction with Threx building a little more trust. The alien's responses grew stronger, its sounds more deliberate. It was as though each of them was feeling their way through a dark room, hands outstretched, fingertips barely touching. When headlights finally pierced the night, Jessica stood up, signaling to Elise. She watched her friend's truck roll to a stop, and Elise emerged, her face etched with both concern and curiosity. "What's going on, Jess?" Elise asked as she grabbed her medical bag. Jessica led her to where Threx lay, the alien's eyes widening at the sight of a new human. "I found him," Jessica said simply. "He's hurt, and I think he's scared." Elise's eyes widened in shock as she took in the sight of the alien, but her professional instincts quickly took over. She knelt beside Threx, examining it with a mixture of clinical detachment and wonder. "Okay, let's see what we can do for you," she murmured, gently probing the alien's injuries. Together they managed to clean and bandage Threx's wounds. The alien watched every move, its body tense but cooperative. Elise was amazed at the creature's resilience and the trust it seemed to place in them. As dawn approached, with Threx stabilized but still vulnerable, Jessica and Elise faced the next set of questions. What were they to do with an alien? Who could they tell without risking Threx's safety or causing a panic? Jessica looked at Elise, determination setting in her features. "We need to figure out where he came from and how to get him back. He can't stay here." Elise nodded in agreement, her mind already racing with the implications of their next steps. They were no longer just two friends in the desert. They were now protectors of an extraterrestrial being, caught up in the most extraordinary event of their lives. DB. With the first light of dawn casting a soft glow over the desert, Jessica and Elise prepared for the challenging day ahead. Threx lay more comfortably now, draped in Jessica's jacket and the various makeshift bandages Elise had applied. Though still weak, the alien's gaze was alert, watching every move they made with a cautious curiosity. Jessica fetched some water and a couple of granola bars from her truck, knowing they all needed sustenance. Threx eyed the water bottle curiously as she unscrewed the cap and took a sip to show it was safe. Hesitantly, the alien mimicked her actions, clumsily handling the bottle but managing to drink. It was a small, yet hopeful sign of trust. "We need a plan," Jessica said as they sat on the rocky ground, keeping their voices low as if the open desert could carry their secrets away. "We can't just keep him out here. It's too exposed. And if we take him into town—" Elise cut her off. "It would cause a panic, or worse, attract the wrong kind of attention. We need somewhere secure, away from prying eyes." Jessica nodded, her mind racing through possibilities. There's the old Bennett place, up by Shadow Canyon. It's pretty much abandoned now, except for some hikers passing through. It's remote, has a structure we can use, and it's only about an hour from here. Elise considered this, chewing on her lip. Do you think we can move him? I mean, he's stable now, but he's still weak, and we don't know enough about his physiology. We'll have to be careful, but I don't think we have a choice, Jessica replied. Her gaze turned back to Threx, who seemed to be following their conversation with an intense focus. We're going to take you somewhere safe, she said directly to the alien. Somewhere you can rest and heal. Threx emitted a series of soft clicks, the sound thoughtful, or perhaps apprehensive. Jessica pulled out her tablet again and showed Threx a map, pointing to the location of the Bennett place. The alien leaned over, its eyes scanning the screen intently, then looked up at Jessica and nodded. It was a human gesture, and Jessica wondered if Threx had learned it from observing them, or if it was a coincidence. With a plan in place, they packed up. Jessica and Elise helped Threx to its feet, supporting it gently. The alien was surprisingly light, its body wiry and tense with the effort to remain upright. The drive to the Bennett place was tense, each bump in the road eliciting a grimace from Threx. Jessica drove as carefully as she could, her eyes frequently darting to the rearview mirror where she could see Threx lying in the back with Elise keeping a steady hand on him. When they arrived, the old Bennett house looked even more dilapidated than Jessica remembered. The wooden panels were weathered and worn, the paint peeling like sunburnt skin, but it was structurally sound and, more importantly, isolated. They carried Threx inside, laying him down on a makeshift bed of blankets and pillows that Elise had brought. The interior of the house was cool and shaded, which seemed to relieve Threx somewhat. As Threx rested, Jessica and Elise set up a perimeter of sorts, checking the approach paths for any signs of visitors, and setting up a few rudimentary alarms made of string and cans. It wouldn't stop anyone determined to investigate, but it would give them some warning. We need to figure out what he eats, how he communicates more effectively, and what he needs to heal. Jessica listed the priorities as she looked at Elise. Elise nodded, pulling out her tablet to start making a list. And we need to keep this a secret, at least for now, until we understand more. Jessica agreed. We also need to find out why he was here in the first place. His arrival can't just be an accident. Outside, the landscape stretched wide and barren, the earth holding its breath as if waiting for the secrets it harbored to unfold. Inside the old Bennett house, 3 beings, 1 alien and 2 human, began a tentative cohabitation, unaware of how deeply their fates were now intertwined. As days melded into nights, the makeshift sanctuary at the Bennett place became a hub of quiet activity. Jessica and Elise dedicated themselves to understanding and caring for Threx, who was slowly regaining strength but remained dependent on their support. Elise had managed to cobble together a nutrient mixture from her veterinary supplies, one that seemed to agree with Threx's unique biology. She watched closely as Threx consumed the food, noting its reactions and adjusting the ingredients accordingly. Meanwhile, Jessica's makeshift communication system evolved as she incorporated various software tools to analyze and replicate Threx's vocalizations. The breakthroughs were small but significant, each one bringing them closer to a rudimentary dialogue. During these sessions, Threx began to share snippets of its own world, conveying images and concepts through the tablet. Its planet was a place of vast oceans and floating islands, a stark contrast to the arid stretches of the Mojave. Threx expressed a deep longing for home, a sentiment that resonated painfully with Jessica and Elise. As their understanding grew, so did their concern. Threx explained through a series of images and sounds that Jessica painstakingly decoded that its arrival on Earth was no accident. It had been pursued by enemies from another world, adversaries that sought to exploit its planet's resources. Crashing on Earth had been a desperate bid for escape and survival. The gravity of the situation settled heavily on Jessica and Elise. They were no longer merely caretakers. They were now allies in an interstellar conflict they barely understood. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows over the desert, Elise approached Jessica with a worried expression. We need to be more careful, she said. I've noticed some unusual activity around the area. Vehicles that don't belong, people asking questions in town. I think someone might be looking for Threx. Jessica felt a surge of protectiveness. We should increase our security, maybe even set up cameras around the perimeter. And we should have a contingency plan in case we need to move him quickly. Elise agreed, and they spent the next few days bolstering their defenses and planning escape routes. They also decided to bring in another trusted friend, Miguel, who had military experience and could offer additional security. Miguel arrived under the guise of a hiking trip, his backpack filled not with camping gear, but with surveillance equipment and self-defense tools. He listened intently as Jessica and Elise briefed him on the situation, his face growing increasingly serious. This is bigger than anything I've dealt with before, Miguel admitted. But I'm with you. Let's make sure we keep Threx safe. With Miguel's help, they set up motion sensors and infrared cameras around the property. Each night, they took turns watching the monitors, alert to any sign of intrusion. Their efforts to protect Threx were not in vain. Late one evening, as Jessica monitored the screens, she noticed a group of figures approaching the boundary of the property. They moved with purpose, clearly familiar with the terrain. Elise, Miguel, wake up. We've got company, she hissed into her walkie-talkie. The trio mobilized quickly, their previous planning making them efficient in their response. Threx, sensing the urgency, insisted on joining them, despite its still frail condition. They must not find me, Threx communicated through the tablet, its message more insistent than anything it had conveyed before. As the intruders breached the first line of sensors, Jessica, Elise, and Miguel, along with Threx, slipped out through a back route they had prepared for an emergency. The cool desert night enveloped them as they made their way to a secondary hiding spot, a cave known only to local hikers. Hunkered down among the rocks, they watched remotely as the intruders searched the Bennett house. Threx stayed close to Jessica, its body tense. This is just the beginning, Miguel whispered, his voice grim. If they're here, they won't stop until they find what they're looking for. Jessica glanced at Threx, its luminous eyes reflecting a mix of fear and determination. She reached out, taking its hand in a gesture of solidarity. We won't let them take you, she promised. And as the stars blinked silently above, her promise felt like a vow that would lead them all into unknown dangers, binding their fates together even more tightly. Hidden in the shadows of the cave, their breaths shallow and eyes fixed on the distant glow of lights at the Bennett house, Jessica, Elise, Miguel, and Threx waited in tense silence. The intruders were methodically searching the property, unaware of the surveillance cameras capturing their every move. Miguel monitored the situation on a small portable screen connected to the house's security system. They're not just random looters or curious hikers, he observed quietly. These guys are equipped and organized. Military, maybe, or private contractors. Elise glanced at Threx, whose skin shimmered with a subtle reflective quality, a sign of its anxiety. What do they want with you, Threx? Why are they so determined? Threx's response, translated through the tablet, was a series of quick, sharp sounds that the software rendered as, "My world, my technology, they seek power." Jessica's fists clenched. We need to get him out of here, somewhere far from their reach. But where? Elise asked, her voice a mix of frustration and worry. Anywhere on Earth might still be within their grasp. Miguel nodded, his eyes never leaving the screen. We might need to consider something drastic, like getting him off the planet. The suggestion hung in the air, audacious and nearly unthinkable. Yet, given the circumstances, it was an option they couldn't dismiss outright. Jessica pondered the idea, her gaze drifting to Threx. Could we even do that? Do you have a way to contact your people, Threx? The alien's response was hesitant, the translated text reading, Possible but dangerous. Need device from ship. Their next move was becoming clear. They would need to retrieve whatever Threx required from the wreckage of its craft, which was now likely under surveillance or possibly already discovered by the intruders. We'll need to be smart and fast, Miguel said, beginning to outline a plan. If we can distract them, maybe create a diversion, some of us could slip back to the crash site. They worked through the night, planning every detail. As dawn approached, They were ready to enact their risky plan. Under the cover of early morning, while the intruders were still regrouped at the Bennett house, Jessica and Miguel set out in one direction, carrying a series of homemade noise-making devices to deploy as distractions. Elise stayed with Threx, ready to move him at a moment's notice based on updates from Jessica. The first phase went smoothly. Miguel and Jessica deployed the noisemakers in a staggered line away from the Bennett house, leading towards a less critical area. As expected, several of the intruders broke off from their group to investigate. With part of their force distracted, Elise and Threx made their way toward the crash site. The alien moved slowly, still weak, but its determination was palpable. Every step was a painful effort, supported by Elise's steady arm. At the crash site, the scene was as they feared. The area had been cordoned off with tape, and several vehicles were parked nearby. Fortunately, no one was currently present, likely drawn away by the diversion. Threx led Elise to a concealed panel on the wreckage, its edges barely visible under the twisted metal. With effort, it pulled out a small, intricate device, cradling it carefully. "This can call home, but needs power, much energy," Threx explained through the tablet. As they hurried back to the rendezvous point, Jessica and Miguel met them halfway, having successfully evaded the intruders now scattered and confused by the multiple false alarms. Back in the relative safety of the cave, they examined the device. It was sleek, humming with potential energy, but clearly in need of a power source beyond what they could easily provide. "We need to think bigger," Jessica said, her mind racing. "Maybe a lab or a facility with the necessary resources." Miguel's contacts in his military network could be their next step. He hesitated, knowing the risks of bringing more people into their secret. But the stakes were high, and Threx's enemies were relentless. As they prepared for their next move, the reality of their situation sank in. They were no longer just a small group hiding in the desert. They were part of an interstellar incident that could alter the course of human-alien relations forever. Their next steps would need to be cautious, yet bold, as they navigated not only the physical dangers, but the ethical and political implications of their actions. In the dim light of the cave, the group gathered around the alien device, a tangible symbol of the broader universe's complexities and dangers. Miguel, tapping into his network, found a potential ally in Dr. Lena Hart, a physicist known for her work on energy systems and unofficial dealings with experimental technology. "Dr. Hart has access to a lab equipped to handle this kind of tech," Miguel explained as he secured a meeting. "She's trustworthy, knows how to keep secrets, and is curious enough to help without asking too many questions." The risk of involving another outsider weighed heavily on them, but the necessity of their situation left little room for hesitation. With Threx's condition stabilizing but still precarious, they needed to act swiftly to ensure its safety and to facilitate its communication with its home planet. Jessica organized their departure under the cloak of night, traveling in 2 vehicles to minimize suspicion. Threx, hidden under blankets, lay in the back seat of Jessica's car, while Elise kept a close eye on its vitals. Miguel and Jessica communicated via secure channels, constantly scanning their surroundings for any signs of pursuit. Upon arriving at the lab, a nondescript building on the outskirts of a major city, they were met by Dr. Hart, a woman with sharp eyes and a brisk manner. She ushered them inside with a swift efficiency that spoke of her experience in dealing with unusual and secretive matters. Dr. Hart listened intently as they explained their situation, her gaze fixed on Threx with a mixture of professional interest and genuine concern. "I've heard rumors about extraterrestrial contact," she confessed, "but I never thought I'd see it firsthand. Let's see what we can do about powering up this device." The lab was well equipped, filled with high-energy capacitors and advanced computational models that dwarfed any technology Jessica or Elise had ever worked with. Dr. Hart and her team worked alongside Miguel, setting up a controlled environment where they could safely test and eventually power the alien device. Threx, though weak, assisted as much as possible, explaining the device's requirements through Jessica's translation. It needed a specific type of energy pulse, something that Dr. Hart theorized could be replicated using their existing equipment. As they initiated the power-up sequence, the lab's lights dimmed momentarily, a testament to the device's energy demands. The alien technology hummed to life, its surfaces glowing with a soft, pulsating light. Threx approached, hands extended, and as it touched the device, the glow intensified. Suddenly, the device projected a holographic display, intricate symbols and images floating in the air. Threx manipulated the projections expertly, and after several tense minutes, the alien nodded to Jessica. Message sent. Now we wait. The wait was agonizing. The group took turns monitoring the device, while Dr. Hart's team maintained a vigilant watch over the lab's security. 2 days later, their patience was rewarded. The device activated on its own, projecting a new series of holograms that depicted several alien figures, clearly receiving Threx's message. Threx communicated with its people, the exchange complex and emotional. After the communication ended, Threx turned to the group, its expression one of mixed relief and sorrow. "Help is coming," it announced through the tablet. "But so are my pursuers. We must prepare." This news stirred a flurry of activity. Dr. Hart agreed to help them prepare the lab for any potential threats, strengthening their security protocols and devising emergency plans. Meanwhile, Miguel reached out to more of his contacts, gathering support for what might become a stand not just for Threx's safety, but for Earth's first active defense in an interstellar conflict. As they fortified their position, Jessica and Elise realized the depth of their commitment. They were no longer merely bystanders or accidental heroes. They were now key players in an unfolding cosmic drama, ready to defend their new friend and, possibly, Earth itself from an imminent extraterrestrial threat. With the lab transformed into a stronghold, the group braced for the arrival of Threx's pursuers. Dr. Hart had upgraded the security systems to military grade, and Miguel's contacts had discreetly provided additional surveillance and defensive measures. They were as prepared as they could be, yet the tension hung heavy in the air, thick with anticipation and the weight of the unknown. Threx had become more communicative as it regained strength, sharing vital information about its pursuers, called the Zeltrons. The Zeltrons were mercenaries, known for their ruthlessness and efficiency in tracking down their targets across galaxies. Their interest in Earth was not just about capturing Threx, but potentially evaluating the planet for resource extraction, making the situation even more dire. Elise monitored the incoming transmissions on the device, now a critical link between Threx and its home. A new message arrived, brief but alarming. The Zeltrons had entered the solar system and were moving rapidly toward Earth. Their arrival time was estimated within hours. The group gathered to strategize. Dr. Hart outlined the lab's defensive capabilities, which included electromagnetic pulse, EMP, weapons that could disable electronic equipment, hopefully giving them an edge against the technologically advanced Zeltrons. "We need to keep them from entering the lab at all costs," Miguel stated, checking his equipment one last time. "If they breach the perimeter, fall back to the secondary defense points. Remember, our goal is to delay them until Threx's reinforcements arrive." Jessica stood beside Threx, who seemed calm despite the impending threat. "We're with you," she assured it. Threx responded with a nod, its eyes conveying gratitude and resolve. As the predicted time of arrival approached, the lab's external sensors triggered an alert. Multiple vehicles were approaching, their movements coordinated and deliberate. The Zeltrons were here. Miguel and 2 of his trusted contacts took positions at the primary entry points, equipped with non-lethal EMP weapons. Jessica and Elise stayed close to Threx inside the central control room, while Dr. Hart monitored the security systems, ready to activate the lab's internal defenses. The first wave of Zeltrons attempted to breach the main gate, using a combination of high-tech gadgets and brute force. The EMP weapons proved effective, disabling several of their devices and causing confusion. Miguel's team used this advantage to push them back, but it was clear the Zeltrons were testing their defenses, likely regrouping for a stronger assault. Inside the control room, Threx seemed focused on the device, its hands moving over the controls in a flurry of activity. "Signal strengthened. Help closer," it updated them. Outside, the second wave of Zeltrons launched a more aggressive attack. This time, they deployed a device that seemed to dampen the lab's EMP effects, adapting to the defense strategies previously used against them. The perimeter defenses began to falter, and Miguel ordered a retreat to secondary positions within the lab. The Zeltrons breached the perimeter, entering the lab with precision. Dr. Hart activated the internal defense systems, creating barriers of laser grids and smoke screens to disorient the intruders. The lab turned into a maze of light and shadows, each corridor a potential trap. Miguel and his team engaged the Zeltrons in brief skirmishes, managing to hold them at bay, but at the cost of exhausting their resources. As the situation grew increasingly desperate, the sound of a new arrival cut through the chaos, a deep, resonating hum that vibrated through the walls. Threx's eyes lit up, and it moved to the nearest window. Outside, a sleek alien ship descended from the sky, its design unmistakably different from the Zeltron crafts. It was Threx's people, arriving just as the battle reached its climax. The ship deployed its own defense mechanisms, emitting a powerful pulse that instantly neutralized the Zeltron technology. Disabled and disoriented, the Zeltrons were quickly subdued by Miguel's team. With the immediate threat neutralized, the alien ship landed in the lab's courtyard. A delegation of beings, similar to Threx but varying in colors and features, disembarked. They moved swiftly to secure the area, their technology clearly superior and their presence imposing. Threx approached them, a reunion filled with emotions too complex for Jessica and Elise to fully understand. After a brief exchange, Threx turned to Jessica, Elise, Miguel, and Dr. Hart. "My people are grateful. You have defended not just me, but your world. We owe you a debt." The leader of the delegation, a regal figure in flowing robes, stepped forward. "We offer our thanks and our protection. Let this be the beginning of a new alliance between our peoples." As they discussed the terms of this new relationship, Jessica felt a mix of relief and awe. They had not only saved a... In the aftermath of the confrontation, the lab was abuzz with activity and new possibilities. The Zeltrons had been detained, their equipment confiscated and analyzed by both human and alien experts. Threx's people, who identified themselves as the Arcarians, were gracious and keen to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. The immediate crisis had sparked a series of events that would inevitably lead to broader interstellar dialogues. Jessica, Elise, Miguel, and Dr. Hart found themselves at the center of these groundbreaking discussions. The Arcarians proposed a treaty that would not only safeguard Earth from future incursions by hostile forces like the Zeltrons, but would also open up avenues for technological and cultural exchanges between Earth and the Arcarian constellation. In the days that followed, a temporary Arcarian mission was established at the lab, which was expanded and fortified to serve as a joint human-alien research and diplomatic facility. Jessica took on a liaison role, her background in astrophysics and her first-hand experience with Threx making her an ideal candidate to bridge the two worlds. Elise adapted her medical expertise to cater to both human and alien physiology, working closely with Arcarian healers to develop new treatments and understanding of biological diversity. Her clinic within the facility became a place of learning and healing, symbolizing the potential benefits of interspecies collaboration. Miguel, with his strategic mind and experience, led the security operations, ensuring that the facility was protected against any potential threats. His respect for the Arcarians grew as he learned more about their culture and their emphasis on peace and mutual respect. Dr. Hart, ever the scientist, thrived in the environment where her expertise could be applied to the cutting-edge technology brought by the Arcarians. She led research teams that worked on integrating Earth technology with Arcarian innovations, from energy production to space travel. As the official negotiations for the treaty began, delegates from various nations on Earth arrived, each eager to understand the implications of this new relationship. The world was watching, and the pressure to establish a framework that would benefit all of humanity was immense. Threx, now fully recovered and officially appointed as an ambassador to Earth, facilitated the discussions with a deep understanding of both the stakes and the nuances involved. Its unique perspective as someone who had lived among humans and faced common adversaries helped shape the treaty's focus on cooperation and mutual protection. One evening, as the sun set over the expanded facility, Jessica and Threx stood watching the horizon. "Did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" she asked. Threx turned to her, its eyes reflecting the last light of the day. "I hoped," it said, its voice soft. "When facing darkness, hope is a powerful force." Jessica smiled. "And trust. We trusted each other, and look where it got us." "Yes, trust," Threx agreed. "That will be the foundation of this alliance." As the treaty was finalized, Earth prepared for a new era. The agreement, known as the Terran-Arcarian Accord, established Earth as a protected state under the Arcarian Confederacy, preventing any future exploitation by external forces. In return, Earth would share its own resources and knowledge, contributing to a vast interstellar community. The official signing of the Accord was a globally televised event, celebrated as a milestone in human history. Jessica, Elise, Miguel, and Dr. Hart stood by Threx and the Arcarian delegation, their faces filled with pride and optimism. After the ceremony, as the world began to look outward to the stars with new eyes, the team gathered in the facility's observatory. They looked at the vast universe, now not just a frontier to explore, but a community to engage with. "We've done something incredible," Elise said, her voice full of emotion. "We did it together," Miguel added, his hand on her shoulder. Dr. Hart, looking at the data streaming in from the first joint space mission, nodded. "This is just the beginning. There's so much more to learn, so much more to do." Jessica looked at Threx, feeling a profound bond. "Ready for the next adventure?" Threx's response was a resolute nod. "Always." As they watched the stars, a sense of unity and purpose filled the room. Earth had not just gained allies, but had become part of a larger cosmos, its destiny now intertwined with the destinies of other worlds. The challenges ahead would be many, but they faced them together, as members of a vast and diverse interstellar family. With the signing of the Terran-Arcarian Accord, Earth entered a new era of exploration and collaboration. The joint facility became a hive of activity, with scientists, diplomats, and adventurers from both worlds working side by side to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Jessica, now a prominent figure in interspecies relations, split her time between Earth and Arcaria, the Arcarian homeworld. Her role as a liaison took her on diplomatic missions, scientific expeditions, and cultural exchanges, forging bonds between humans and Arcarians that transcended mere diplomacy. Elise found her calling in the field of interspecies medicine, pioneering treatments and therapies that benefited both humans and aliens. Her clinic became a beacon of hope, welcoming beings from across the galaxy in search of healing and understanding. Miguel continued to lead security operations at the joint facility, ensuring its safety against potential threats while also fostering cooperation and trust between Earth and Arcaria. His leadership earned him respect on both worlds, as he navigated the complexities of interstellar security with skill and determination. Dr. Hart's research flourished in the collaborative environment, pushing the boundaries of human and Arcarian technology. Together with her colleagues, she developed new energy sources, propulsion systems, and communication devices that revolutionized interstellar travel and communication. Threx, now an esteemed ambassador, played a crucial role in guiding the alliance forward. Its wisdom and experience proved invaluable in navigating the intricacies of intergalactic politics and diplomacy, ensuring that the Accord remained strong in the face of external pressures and internal challenges. As the years passed, humanity and Arcaria continued to grow closer, forging friendships and alliances that spanned light years. Together they explored new worlds, made groundbreaking discoveries, and faced unforeseen threats with courage and resilience. But amidst the triumphs and celebrations, there were also moments of reflection and introspection. Earth's integration into the broader galactic community brought with it both opportunities and responsibilities, forcing humanity to confront its own strengths and weaknesses on a cosmic scale. As they looked to the stars, they knew that the journey ahead would be long and uncertain, filled with both wonder and danger. But they also knew that as long as they stood together, as allies and friends, there was nothing they couldn't accomplish. And so, with hearts full of hope and minds open to the possibilities of the cosmos, they embarked on a new chapter in the history of humanity, a chapter filled with endless discoveries, infinite horizons, and the boundless potential of the universe. Years turned into decades, and the alliance between Earth and Arcaria flourished, leaving an indelible mark on the course of galactic history. The joint facility, once a symbol of cooperation and discovery, had evolved into a bustling hub of interspecies collaboration, its halls echoing with the chatter of scientists, diplomats, and adventurers from across the cosmos. Jessica, Elise, Miguel, and Dr. Hart had become legends in their own right, their names whispered with reverence by generations yet unborn. Their contributions to the Alliance were commemorated in monuments and archives, ensuring that their legacy would endure for millennia to come. But as time marched inexorably forward, a new generation took up the mantle of stewardship, carrying on the work begun by their predecessors with passion and dedication. They explored new frontiers, forged new alliances, and confronted new challenges, all in the name of peace and progress. And though the faces may have changed, the spirit of unity and cooperation remained steadfast, a beacon of hope in a galaxy often plagued by conflict and division. For in the end, it was not just the discoveries they made or the treaties they signed that defined their legacy. It was the bonds of friendship and trust they forged, transcending species and spanning the stars. As they looked back on their journey, they knew that they had been part of something greater than themselves, something that would echo through the annals of history for eternity. And as they looked forward to the endless possibilities of the cosmos, they knew that their adventure was far from over, that the greatest discoveries still lay ahead, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to seek them. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and minds ablaze with curiosity, they set out once more into the great unknown, bound together by the ties of friendship, the bonds of alliance, and the shared dream of a brighter tomorrow. For as long as there were stars to guide them and worlds to explore, they would continue to journey forth, leaving behind a legacy that would inspire generations yet unborn to reach for the stars and embrace the infinite possibilities of the universe.